Golden Black Radio is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store. Shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including our Lafayette location, fun can't lose, and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
I'll add myself to stage here and then get Nate will join us. And I want to thank the Union Club Hotel at Purdue. An autograph collection retreat blends student-run hospitality with resort luxury. Enjoy the spa, Boiler House, prime dining, and Perk Boilermaker golf. Perfect for the wellness and Purdue fans as well as leisure seekers. Our property offers serene escapes, and you need one after a game like tonight for Purdue. Book your getaway today. Of course, we also want to thank our good friends at Twin City and the Chariot Auto Group, serving Greater Lafayette with the best new and used Jeep selection at TwinCitySuperstore.com. And we're going to bring in Nate Barrett here. And Nate, this is I got my Cubs shirt on, and it was a tough night for Purdue. It was a tough night for the Cubs, as it turned out. Purdue, not all Purdue fans care about the Cubs, but and I think Barry Odom said it correctly. You cannot turn the ball over 4 times and have or lose a turnover battle 4-1 and have a pick 6, have a red zone turnover. And the penalties just killed Purdue in a game that Purdue, there are not many games you lose when you outgain the team by 200 yards and outrush them by 200 yards. We're going to look that up down the road. Just a tough loss for Purdue.
It sure is, Alan, and good to have you back in the USA. And tough one for Cub fans and Purdue fans. And Tim, as usual, the voice of the Boilermakers, said it pretty well after that pick 6, and I wrote down what he said, Alan. He said mistakes, drop balls, penalties, turnovers. That's the deal. And that's what sealed Purdue's fate tonight. And it was there for the taking. And it's one that Purdue fans, if you're coming back as a program, Alan, Minnesota is one on the road that you'd certainly like to have and get some momentum. Tom talked about it for months going into this season, that October, we all know, is the key month. And it was there for you tonight. And the Boilermakers started very well.
Yeah, they did, and had a chance to, really to get this game in hand. You sensed it, and they talked about it on the radio show as well. Tim did, the fact that you didn't, you had a couple possessions with a 7-point lead and could not put it away. And we're sharing some of the sentiments on there. Drops, guys running out of bounds, turnovers. Some key drops also by the Purdue receiving corps, certainly, that did not help things. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with the Sporting Warriors comment that the 48-yard field goal, that's a field goal that he had plenty of distance. He just didn't make. Spencer Porath has been kicking very, very well, and not I didn't mind that call necessarily in that situation. But, again, those key numbers on the turnovers, it just absolutely kill you if you're Purdue, and it did kill the Boilermakers tonight.
Yeah, because you in the 2 face mask situations, Alan, you'd made a great defensive play.
Right.
And so then you need to capitalize on it. And instead, the situation's completely reversed on you with those kind of mental mistakes. The other ones that I think stand out, Alan, are the catches made by Horton where he didn't know that he'd been out of bounds, at least
right.
on the one, and came back in, and you have the touch rule. That hurts because he made a nice grab. And then there was another one, also our radio crew on the Purdue Radio Network just commenting that's a situation where you have to know where you are as a receiver. So you hope that's a mistake that young man won't make again this season. And the face max situation to happen twice to the same player is just inexplicable.
Yeah, and you're trying to make plays, and I get it. In the first one, he kind of just reached D'Amico Kennedy, I think it was, and both of them, right? And trying to make a play. The second one was a little less forgivable because that just didn't bode well for what Purdue wanted to get done there, certainly at the end.
No question. And the execution, as you pointed out, Alan, to have that much more of total offense and then just have the execution bite you is extremely painful. The 3 turnovers, Purdue on time of possession, Alan, 34-30 to 25-30 for the Gophers, 456 yards total offense for Purdue, 262 for Minnesota, and then Purdue 9 penalties for 71 yards. I do want to give Purdue credit, though, Alan. I thought the history with Maccabee against the Gophers we know is good, and they went to the attack with Devin right away.
Yeah, and that was good, and he ran hard all day with a doubt. Okay, we got Brian Newbert has joined the fray and looking for some wisdom. Do you have any for us, Brian? Are you hearing us okay? Oh, still trying to get his headset out. We'll let him get that handled, and as we do that, we'll bring Brian in. Yeah, total plays again. I can't think of too many games where you have 19 more plays. You get 194 more yards. You run the ball 253 to 30, and you don't get it done. That is a tough one if you're a Purdue fan. And again, getting back to those numbers, 4 turnovers. If you watched the game, you knew it. But 4-1 in the turnovers and the penalties, 9 for 71 and 3 for 20 for Minnesota. Brian, I want to see. Are you hearing us okay?
1 second.
All right. Well, I'll remove you, and you give me the high. Just give me a thumbs up when you're ready, and we'll bring you back on. Nate, obviously another wild week in the Big Ten. Indiana's win over Oregon. Northwestern goes to Penn State. We looked at this schedule here over these next 3 games, and if you were Purdue and say, boy, you'd like to get 2 out of these 3, and they still can do that. Even though we being Purdue let the one slip away today. But Northwestern, that was an impressive win at Penn State. Who would have thought Penn State would be in the way that they're in after it? It was just stunning from that standpoint. Of course, Ohio State took care of Illinois in pretty sound fashion, 34-16. And that Ohio State defense is something. Of course, Indiana and Ohio State don't play during the regular season, but they're heading right to a game in Indianapolis. The way things go, you look at Indiana's schedule. Their trick games are the games at Maryland and at home against UCLA. UCLA also a shocking team from that standpoint. I think Brian may be ready here. Let's see. Are you hearing us now?
I got you. You got me.
We got you. Yes, Brian. Give us your quick thought, not your quickness thoughts, but just on the way that this game transpired for Purdue.
Yeah, just an excruciating deal. I mean, I've covered a lot of losses that had to be beyond maddening for Purdue. I covered the Tiller years. I covered the Brom years, and those guys had a lot of success, but it was always something. I mean, it was always an event, whether they won a certain way or they lost a certain way. There was always something to write about. And I think this was kind of one of the more disappointing losses the last few years that I've probably seen from Purdue. I think Purdue is just a team right now that is doing positive things, but this was the night to break through and actually get an outcome.
Right.
And I think Purdue just looks like a team that doesn't know how to win right now, doesn't know how to win, period. And responding to situations, things like that, having opportunities. I thought Purdue I thought they put their guys in a bad position by calling that trick play in the red zone.
Couldn't agree more. I just thought that was a bad thing. But go ahead, Brian. Yeah.
But they just have to be damn near perfect. I thought you played a winning game today. I thought the defense was really good. I thought, the offense did enough good things to put you in position to win, but you just can't make mistakes because you're just not good enough to overcome turnovers, penalties, drop passes, all of that stuff. And just the slippery slope moments where a program that loses, and all the faces are different. So we call it a program, but we're not really calling it a program. It's just one of those deals, again, like the last few years, where something bad happens and then it just snowballs.
Yeah.
And that last scoring drive by Minnesota with the 2 face mask penalties, it's just bad luck. I mean, face mask penalties are really complicated.
Yes.
It's not intent. It's just contact. And sometimes things just happen in the heat of the moment. It's just bad luck. And sometimes when you're a losing program, things go against you like that. And It's precisely what happened. I think, Ryan Brown is a guy who is a better football player than he is a quarterback. I think if that makes any sense to people, I think he's going to take it and giveth away all season. And I think this was a classic example of that. The scoring play he made was absolutely brilliant, exhilarating. He put them in position to win, made enough throws, made enough plays. And then the pick six, one play after Minnesota ties the game, is just absolutely soul crushing from a football perspective. And it's just, you can't overcome it. You were good enough to win tonight, but you were not good enough to overcome yourself. And that's just still where Purdue is. And this was a golden opportunity for them to get a win, and it got away.
Brian, talk about Purdue's use of Malachi Singleton tonight and really going to him as a new wrinkle. They stuck with him for a while. He opened up with that big 40-yard pickup, but just Barry Odom and the offensive team coming up with really a new scenario for him.
Yeah, they were running the ball well as it was to open the game. I thought they had a really good game plan again. I think Josh Henson's doing a good job designing offense that puts people in position to succeed. Malachi Singleton gives them another element to that running game. Ryan Brown's a good runner himself, but I think he's more of a scramble mode guy than he is a design run guy. He's a read option guy more than he's a design run guy. I think when you put a guy like Malachi Singleton back there, it's the old Taysom Hill, Tim Tebow, Cam Newton kind of thing, where all of a sudden you're 11 on 11 or whatever. You have one extra blocker for the guy carrying the ball, and that guy's pretty big, and he's gonna be hard to take down. The math on that probably was completely botched. I think I just put like 40 players on the field. So it's tough to stop. People know what's coming, and that they still haven't been able to stop it. I thought Purdue was doing it to set up a shot down the field at some point, and they took it, and it didn't connect. But it was worth the shot. So I'd imagine you'll see more of this, and it's something Purdue's going to need to, be able to play off of and let Malachi Singleton throw it some out of this when everybody's expecting run. But no, it certainly helped today. The running game was good, and that was part of the curiosity that came from the trick play call in the red zone there, where if you had just kept running the ball, or if you had just gone with safe throws, you'd have had at least 3 points. Yeah. Almost certainly. You might have had 7. You didn't need, and I talk out of both sides of my mouth because I point out to people a lot that trick plays only work when your base offense is working. When your base offense isn't working, nobody's going to fall for the tricks. But I thought Purdue's base offense was working well enough where they could have kept hammering away at it, kept Minnesota's defense on the field, and ultimately ended up with points and not taking an unnecessary risk there.
Well, I wondered too, and I just thought, and again, it's easy to armchair quarterback. I just thought that with the throw that Singleton was only one. I just thought I liked the way he's running the ball, but you may have gotten maybe out-cuted yourself a little bit. Again, I don't know what the game plan is, but that I just
talk about the interception. The interception was Maccabee.
No, I know that, but I'm talking about when Singleton came in the second half also, and then he ran the ball, then he threw it on a third down. I think it was on third down, and it was an incompletion. It wasn't a terrible pass. I just thought Brown at that time was still throwing the ball well. You bring him back out and do that, but again, easy to do. No, I understand it was Malcolm.
Yeah, but Singleton's gravity in that situation is going to bring everybody up, and that's when you get one-on-one on the outside. Brown that doesn't necessarily have that same pull because of the way they use Brown. So I don't really blame them for doing that. Singleton made that throw against somebody in one of those 2 wins, I think, in garbage.
Yeah, Southern Illinois did.
Yeah,
he did.
He can make that throw. He just
and that's being extra picky. I just thought I think that the thing that's really like the one you like to have back, even though I know your philosophy on but choosing a trick play at that time, he'd like to have that one back. And Maccabee's deal. It just and obviously because he and I'm sure Devin would like to have that one back.
Yeah, well, he also shouldn't have thrown the ball, but
just should not have thrown the ball.
You're also putting a running back in this situation where he has to make the most important decision in the highest stakes part of the field, and that it's a tough thing to do.
Yeah. Talk about that, and we're going to bring Derek in because he's actually was at the game today too. Derek, I'm going to let you, if you're there, you hearing us all right?
Yeah, just fine, guys.
You just but Brian, I wanted to ask you still to talk about the defensive play of Purdue's defense in general, putting stopping the run completely. And really, if you look at Lindsey, 21 for 45, he wasn't exactly. Now he made a couple plays when they couldn't get him off the field, but the defense certainly made a major change, major step forward this week.
Yeah, they put a lot on their defensive backs, and after what happened against Illinois, that could have been recipe for disaster had that repeated itself. But I thought the defensive backs did an unbelievable job in one-on-one coverage, man-to-man coverage, I should say. I think Purdue wanted to put a ton of pressure on Minnesota's backfield, and that first touchdown drive I think was bound to happen because Minnesota's smart, and they were going to hit some screens and things like that and kind of use Purdue's aggressiveness against it. That's kind of the chess match of those first quarters in terms of game planning and whatnot. And I think you can excuse the defense for that one, even though the tackling, wasn't great during that drive. But Purdue was in the backfield all day long. I think that they did a great job against the run. They did a great job being disruptive at the line of scrimmage. They were better up front defensively than Minnesota was offensively. I know Minnesota's got some offensive line problems.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Minnesota is the team that's used to traditionally leaning on people, running the ball, wearing you down. And I think Purdue I think Purdue flipped the script on them. I think Purdue on both offense and defense wore Minnesota down a little bit. And I think that speaks to how well Purdue played in this game outside of the 8, 9, 10 moments that ended up costing them this game. Some of them penalties, some of them turnovers, stuff like that. But I don't think you could have asked for a whole lot more from the defense. They gave up 13 points on the road, and that's pretty good. That's good enough to win. Yeah. They didn't throw the pick six or anything like that. They didn't drop passes. They got called for some of the penalties, but they didn't, commit some of the other things that cost Purdue this game.
Yeah. Okay.
Derek, great job tonight, and enjoyed listening to you filling in for the legendary Kelly Kitchell. But I want to ask, you were on the sideline last year. Talk about any differences you perceived in the sideline style or coaching and just organization in general for Barry Odom's club tonight.
Yeah, I think organization is really a good word for it. I think there is just a lot that's a lot less that's left up to chance, if you will. And look, I was there for the last impression, which was one of the worst nights in Purdue football history in Bloomington. So I don't want to judge the previous staff based on just that night. But I was also there for the Oregon State game last year, and it is a pretty stark difference between the two. But the frustration just in general. I think really what I saw following the Oregon State game and following especially the game in Bloomington last year was everyone was just despondent. Whereas this time it was anger and frustration. They know they were better than Minnesota tonight. Guys, I could come on here and point to some reasons why Minnesota won the game. I wish I could say something nice about them. Everybody here is super friendly and great. Minnesota was good at taking what Purdue handed to them tonight.
Right.
I mean, that's the only thing they were good at tonight. They took advantage of what Purdue handed to them. You look at this box score, there's really just no reason outside of turnovers, penalties, and drops that Purdue lost this game. And those are all things that you are supposed to be able to control. So I understand that it's a new team and a new regime and all of that, but I think that's where the frustration comes in. They dominated the line of scrimmage. I mean, the rushing yards, it was crazy. They almost outgained them 2-1, and you still end up falling short in that game. I can understand why the fan base is frustrated with that.
Yeah. Hey, Brian, before we let you go, I wanted to ask you just on where you've been watching Purdue football a long time, and where do you go from here? I mean, obviously there's still 2 games. Northwestern goes to Penn State and wins. They've got everybody's attention now, and obviously with they're on a 3-game winning streak, right? They beat UCLA. Who can beat UCLA anymore? I mean, that's crazy. But my point is, what do you got to go from here? Is you want to finish this season? I know we're only 7 games in, but you want to finish this season strong, and yet you're running out of opportunities. You've got 2 opportunities still upcoming to win, but where do you see this going from here?
You don't think they're going to beat Ohio State, huh?
No, I don't. I'm going to be honest.
Where do you go from here? What can you do? You just look at this. You keep doing what you're doing. You clean up those 8, 9, 10 moments that cost you this game. You work on recognizing a guy dropping in the zone coverage on the first play after a game-tying touchdown. You work on keeping your hands low.
Yeah.
As a defensive lineman, when you're rounding the corner, rushing the quarterback, you work on catching the football.
A novel thought.
Purdue's wide receivers. I don't know what's going on with them, but for as much as Ryan Brown contributed to Purdue losing this game with that interception, he has been hung out to dry by these guys the last 2 weeks. He should have had 375 yards passing last week. He had like 300 something. The drops in this game, Rico Walker, the tight end, I thought dropped a touchdown, his second drop touchdown of the year.
Yeah.
They need George Burren back, but he can't. He obviously can't stay healthy. There's nothing you can do about that. It's not his fault. It's not anybody's fault. But I think Purdue's just got to be more consistent catching the football. They just got to stop beating themselves. They just got to clean up the little stuff. But, last year at this time, we weren't talking about little stuff because the big stuff was all completely broken.
Yeah.
I think the big stuff is closer to being settled to where the little stuff matters. And if you can just clean up this or that here, you might have an opportunity to win some games the rest of the way. But you had a golden opportunity today, and the little stuff came and bit you in the you-know-what. And you only get so many opportunities to do this. And as you said before, they're not beating Ohio State. Who else is left?
They got Michigan, Ohio State, Washington, and
Indiana,
which may be in the top 3 in the country by the time, or top 2. Might be Ohio State and Indiana 1-2 by that time. Because I'm not sure Indiana's losing before the. I mean, they got a couple tricky games, and I'm including UCLA at home as one of them. And they have to go to.
No.
After that,
stop.
Yeah, it's and again, I have a hard time with Indiana. That's my own problem. Is I there's no, just kind of like looking at Purdue being totally different. You have to look at Indiana. It isn't anything like it's ever been in history. They had their first win over a top 5 program ever. It's a good football team. So yeah, it's going to be problematic after October 25th for Purdue to get another win. But they're going to have to pull a major upset from that standpoint. So we shall see. Brian, hey, thanks for your wisdom and a late night and all that you did this week with Big Ten Media Day. We appreciate it. Derek, if you can hang for a second, we'll have you hang, and I'll bring Dub in for a minute. And eventually at the end of this show, we'll bring in Tom Dienhart too. So do you have any last words of wisdom, Brian? I don't want to leave you short here. Anything else you want to add to the fray?
No, I thought just everything I said before. I thought Purdue was good enough to win for 95% of this game. And then just that handful of blunders was or things that went against them, just cost them the game. But I think Purdue's moved a positive direction here. But you only get so many opportunities against beatable teams in this league, and this was certainly one of them. And this one will hurt for the rest of the season, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right, Brian. Thanks again, and we'll have a lot of your coverage this week. Also heading into next week, Purdue's Fan Day. And just a couple weeks away, 2 weeks from last night, Purdue will be playing at Kentucky in its first exhibition game. So, all right, Brian, thanks again. We're gonna bring in Dub here in a second. But Derek, your other thoughts as you look at this, and you're obviously watching this closely on our Golden Black Radio Tuesday show, but. It is frustrating, and yet do you have that same sense? Is it a case of they're just close enough, and they just got to get over the top, or is this something that's going to continue to linger? I guess that time will tell with that.
Yeah, I think they've already graduated to a competent football team, which we couldn't say about last year's team, right? But if you're going to take that next step to be a team that can, not just pray to win every week and instead like really have a chance more often than not, then they're going to just have to clean up all of these unforced errors, and everywhere. I'm drops, penalties, turnovers. It's a big thing. And what makes the turnover problem worse, Alan, is that they never take it away.
Yeah.
So every time Purdue gives the ball away, it's a minus because you're not getting it back. I know they actually got one tonight. It was a miracle, right? They got an interception the first time. It feels like forever. But, you're talking about a team that has 7 takeaways in the last 17 games, 18 games. That's crazy. Yeah. You go around the rest of the country and you don't have anything like that. So I think what is encouraging is that clearly the floor has been raised. Like this is again, a competent, organized, functional football team. What I'm worried about, guys, is that by the end of the year, you can see all of this progress from watching them, but you might look at the standings and say, oh, they're 3-9 or they're 2-10, God forbid.
Yeah.
And then that way, it's kind of hard to hold on to something tangible that says that they're making progress when I think they are making progress. It's just not coming maybe as fast as most of us would like because of they keep getting in their own way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Nate, bringing Dub Jellison in, obviously covers Purdue football and recruiting. And, I'll guess I'll ask that first question to you, Dub, just your impressions of this game, but also it's kind of been the sentiment, a missed opportunity, to say the least, for Purdue.
That was going to be the first thing I said, is just a missed opportunity. Coming off a stretch where you played 3 top 25 teams, you get a Minnesota squad that was kind of up and down, kind of inconsistent. I thought this was a very winnable game for Purdue. And as we saw tonight, it was winnable. It's just the unforced errors, which you guys were talking about before I hopped on here. They've just been the knife in the back of Purdue so far. Even going back to the Illinois and USC games, a lot of unforced errors, a lot of things that show me that they still need to learn how to win. They still need to learn some situational football stuff. I think, the one thing that stood out to me this season from an offensive perspective is just the struggles in the red zone. You get down there 5 times and you only get 1 touchdown tonight. You can't have that, especially, how well they're moving the football. You have to be able to cash in with 6. You can't settle for 3. I think that kind of just speaks to where Purdue is right now. They're so close, but yet so far away.
Yeah, and I think and Derek, I know you may be getting evicted, but we appreciate you jumping on.
Don't you have a plane to catch?
They said get out of it. I'm making a long weekend out of it, so my wife and son are here. We're going to hang out in Minneapolis.
Very cool.
I got to probably
right,
overstay my welcome here in the radio booth.
All right, my friend. Hey, thanks so much for jumping on. It had a lot to us. We appreciate that very much. So safe travels back, and we'll see you. Our audience will see you on Tuesday, obviously, for Gold and Black Radio.
Sounds good. Thanks, fellas.
See you.
All right, I think one good question. This is a good question from Joe Wells. And Dub, you are probably uniquely qualified to answer this question, just because you've watched all this practice and have been there and watched the rotation and receivers. What is the point of playing so many receivers? Just seems like we being Purdue, we're fine with Jackson and Brands. Now we're forcing it into Corey Smith every other play. I don't know if that's quite true, but the rotation of receivers, you definitely have a problem there with drops. I mean, that sometimes that gets in your head. And I thought even down in that last second to last drive, again, a couple catches that could have been made, they weren't. But that was a part of this thing. But you look at that receiving room and you watch this personnel kind of work its way through, and we still haven't seen Delay Morissette yet. But my point is, what do you think about that large number receiving room?
Yeah, it feels like the one guy that you can pretty much count on to come down with it more times than not is Michael Jackson III. I think he's kind of proven that, he had the fumbling issues against Illinois. But outside of that, I think he's been very sure-handed. And he's a guy that, Ryan Brown trusts a lot, and a guy that Ryan Brown can go to when he needs to make a play. Outside of that, though, it's just been the inconsistency is maddening. I think Ryan Brown could have thrown some better balls, but I also think that those are balls that those receivers should have hung on to. I think they're taking themselves out of potentially having big plays. We haven't really seen very many big plays in the passing game, and I think that kind of stemmed from just all these drops and just missed opportunities. You look at Corey Smith, you look at Nitro Tuggle, who's had drop issues. Chauncey Magwood, I know hasn't played a whole lot. He's kind of caught everything that's come his way. Armand Branch has had some drop issues. Rico Walker has had some drop issues. You just go up and down the line, and it just feels like nobody outside of Michael Jackson can consistently come down with these balls.
Yeah.
And that's something that I don't think that Purdue's going to fix this year. I think you kind of have it or you don't. You can go catch 1,000 balls on the jugs machine. It doesn't matter until you can do it in a game. So they're going to have to go out there and prove it moving forward. I think that's another big issue with the offense right now is just the missed opportunities. And I know Ryan Brown didn't play well tonight in my estimation, just from a passing perspective, but he hasn't been given much help. I think the offensive line is still shaky, and the receiving core has just been so hit or miss that it's been hard for that passing game to really find its rhythm.
Yeah. Dub, I know last week I was asking you and Tom about Antonio Harris and how Purdue was able to use him better. This week, it's Singleton. Malachi Singleton had a big run, 40-yard run, seemed to time that well and just wait for the opening. But just talk about how Purdue included him a little more in the mix and seemed to have 5 or 6 things really set up for him tonight.
Yeah, and we've seen kind of sneak peeks of that in the red zone and then some short yardage scenarios kind of leading up to this, but nothing quite like we saw tonight. And you really saw where he can make an impact on this offense. He's dynamic as a runner, and he's also a guy that I think can pick up the tough yardages. He's stout. I can't remember what he's listed at, maybe 230, 240. Like, he's a big, stout dude.
Yeah.
So he can go get those tough yards for you. And he can also crack off a home run like he did on the first drive of the game.
Yeah.
So I think, inserting him, I don't know if this is the case. Maybe I'll ask Barry or Josh Henson on Monday when we talk to him. But, just saving Ryan Brown a little bit because I know on the broadcast they were talking about, some of the hits that he was taking. And you like that fiery aggression from your quarterback, but there comes a point where he's going to have to reel it in. So, but Malachi Singleton, you saw what he can be for this offense, and it was good to have 2 other guys that can make an impact in the run game outside of Devin Mockabee. Last week it was Antonio Harris and Malachi Thomas, and this week it was Singleton and Brown.
Yeah, absolutely on that front. I'm getting some feedback here on our West Coast correspondent happens to be my sister, who was at the USC Michigan game. Said Michigan's debatable. Of course, USC had that game was impressive in their ability to take care of USC tonight. I was watching on the triple screen, watching the Cubs, trying to focus on the Purdue game, which I did. Cubs, it didn't work out quite as well either, but for USC, an impressive win from that standpoint. You look at and I think the one thing too that is interesting is that when you see Northwestern go to Penn State and win, you see Michigan or UCLA do what it's done the last 2 weeks. You do get the sense, and maybe it's a little bit wishful thinking, but you get the sense that Purdue might, is in a position to pull an upset and to beat. And today's would have been an upset, but it comes down, Dub, I think, to learning how to win and getting it done, because you just sense that there was danger here in this game, and that might be the Purdue mentality watching it. But it was a little bit of, oh my gosh, when's the other shoe going to drop? And it dropped big time on Purdue.
Yeah, it's kind of a double-edged sword. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. When you lose 3 straight, how does that impact? Because, the guys that we talk to throughout the week and the coaching staff, they all say the right things. But how does that really impact the team's morale and kind of their mentality and their mindset? That's something I kind of wonder. Like I said, Purdue's kind of said all the right things when we've talked to them, at least. So that's not something that I'm super concerned with Purdue, but you just never know because things can snowball. I think we saw that last year. That Notre Dame game, I think, broke that team. Now I don't think that this team is broken, and I think they have a lot of good football ahead of them. It's just situationally, can they execute when they need to most? And so far they just haven't proven it. Whether that's in the red zone, whether that's limiting turnovers, we've seen the penalties really increase over the last couple games, which is uncharacteristic of a Barry Odom team, at least from what we saw over the first, 4 games.
Right.
It's just all these things that you need to do in order to win, and Purdue just hasn't done them. I think, we saw a lot of positives tonight with the run game. The defense played outstanding. I think they took a step forward. We'll see if they can continue that against Northwestern and Rutgers and beyond. It's not like this is the bad news bears out there. I don't necessarily think that this is a bad football team, but their record reflects who they are, and they're sitting at 2-4 right now, and they got a lot of work to do moving forward.
Yeah, no question. All right, we're going to bring Dub. We'll let you finish up your night's work, and we appreciate your comments. Tom Dienhart's going to join us from I don't think he's gotten kicked out of the press box just yet, so we'll bring him in. Nate, thanks again, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Tom Dienhart, and I don't know, Nate, I'll let you go. I've been hogging the questions here, but what do you got for Tommy D?
Tommy D, I want to ask you about the look to Corey Smith on the last 3 looks from Brown late in the game. Just talk about we were just commenting before you came out on how Purdue spread it around tonight, what you saw from the receiving core.
Yeah, he seemed to take a step up. E.J. Horton hadn't been totally healthy. We saw him a little bit tonight. He certainly wasn't at his best tonight. But, yeah, I think that touchdown catch last week, the 60-yarder against Illinois, was a big one. And from the kid from Brownsburg, Indiana, looks like he's maybe ready to carve out a bigger niche. But I tell you what, guys, I'm sure you've pretty much exhausted most of the topics, but drops, right?
Yeah.
Drop, my goodness, once again. Sometimes Nitro Tuggle makes as many good plays as he does dubious ones. The tight end, he dropped another pass tonight moments after making a good one, Rico Walker. And I know there were probably 4 or 5 drops overall, and they were all impactful. So, that has to get cleaned up. We're halfway through the season now, guys. Time's starting to run out. So, yeah, but again, to your question, Nate, I think that receiving core is sort of rounding into form. We're kind of getting a real good idea maybe who the top 2 or 3 guys are at this point. And it sure would be nice if Denylon Morris could come back, though, right? He still hasn't played this season, and I think he may be the best wideout on the team.
Yeah, we had a question on there saying when Dub made some comment about I don't think we know when Morris said. I think it's a question you guys ask just about every week, or wait for the injury report to see if he's out there. But
I don't think he'll tell us. They're not going to tell us, I think, how long somebody's out for.
Right. Yeah.
He got hurt. He went through training camp and got hurt going into the Ball State game, and it was like he was on a scooter, so it was something lower body, and I guess you got to be cleared, and he just hasn't been cleared yet, and hopefully that time will come sooner rather than later.
And I know, Tom, what was the mood in postgame? How was Barry Odom? I listened to him on radio. He was dejected, which he should be, frustrated. Any of that come off on postgame in the media part like it did a little bit last week?
I think if I were to use one word to describe his mood, I would say somber. How about that?
Okay.
Somber. And, you could sense the dejection in his voice. It almost cracked once. And, I think he knows one. He let one get away tonight. And we went through this last week, right? And it wasn't nearly as close as this, obviously, but the woulda, shoulda, coulda stuff. That I kind of wonder. At some point, you got to make plays to win games, right?
Yeah, you do.
They say you have to learn how to win. I know that sounds cliche, but you do have to learn how to win. And it seems like they never make the plays to finish somebody off. They kept letting Minnesota hang around this game. Hang around. You kind of figured he was going to come back to bite him at some point. And just some devastating sequences there, guys. And I asked him about the Devin Mockabee halfback pass. You know, your offense is rolling. You're running the football. Why get cute with a gimmicky play there when what you were doing conventionally was working? And, you know, the guy was open, and the look was there, he said. Devin just held the ball for too long.
Yeah.
So it was unfortunate. But, you know, it's easier for us to second-guess things when they don't
No
work,
doubt.
right? But, again, it's just that's 3 or 7 points, maybe 7 points. And
red zone turnovers are a death knell. You just cannot do that. You know, just kill it.
They could never separate themselves from Minnesota tonight in spite of just dominating the stats. They say statistics are for losers. We've heard that for years. 456 yards to 262 yards.
Yeah.
And, guys, the penalties, 9 penalties for 71 yards.
That's what I was going to ask you about, Tom. I have to get your take on you come up with a couple of big plays and then blow it with those face mask penalties. Just talk about any discipline or things like that came up in the press conference.
Yeah, I asked Barry about the penalties, of course. How could you not? And I'm looking for, you know, they were, like I said, 9 penalties for 71 yards, too many penalties, he said. And they pointed out to me the 2 sticking out in my mind and will forever, the 2 on 3rd downs on the face mask on the quarterback.
Yeah.
He says you're tackling too high. You got to get lower, especially on a big quarterback. Anything around the head and neck area, they're going to call, which it certainly was. He wasn't disputing the call, but I think there's some fundamental teaching that goes along with that. So, you know, like he said it right there. He wasn't disputing it. He was just disappointed on how the tackles were executed. My gosh. From a player, D'Amico Kennedy, who really had been making a move of late, you know. But, you know, we all make mistakes, and you get in the heat of the moment. Sometimes you sort of forget things. But, gosh, boy, they were going to get off the field there. And that defense did a lot of good things tonight, guys. But I guess when you got to bow your back and get that one big stop, so if you don't do it, everything else sort of goes out the window, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No question, and I think that's going to be a storyline. You know, and Tom, you saw what happened. Is the last question for you here tonight is just on. You saw what happened today. Obviously, at the top of the league, Indiana, he has that big win in Oregon. Ohio State takes care of business, but the one that obviously gets Purdue's attention now is Notre Dame. Northwestern winning at Penn State. The point of the matter is there's. You never can quite tell what's going to happen in this league, and while Purdue needs to get a win next week, and that's not going to be easy. They're not going to be a favorite, I don't think. That's pretty much for sure at this point. But what do you see? What needs to happen? You want to win these. You want to show improvement with actual wins and losses, and technically you've done that already. But you need to get one of these next 2 games, I think, to really have at least a little bit of a positive spring in your step.
Yeah, you sure do, Al. We talked about this a lot, right? How critical October was, this 3-game stretch here, and they're 0-1, right? And here comes the trip to Evanston to play the now mighty Wildcats.
Yeah, they won 3 in a row, right?
Here's up 3 in a row. My gosh, 22-21 in State College, Pennsylvania. So that's why we watch college football. We don't know what to expect. It's not going to be easy. But this is still a peer program. You know, this is a game Purdue's going to be in. It's probably going to be a lot like this game.
Yeah.
Probably a fourth quarter game, and like an NFL game. All those NFL games are 1 possession, fourth quarter games. And this certainly could look like an NFL game, at least from that standpoint, being a fourth quarter ball game. And, you know, it's the same stuff, guys. You make plays to win games. There's going to be 2 or 3 plays you're going to have to make. Don't drop that pass. Don't make that key penalty. Get that key stop. And again, Purdue has been unable to do that against a Power 4 opponent. And we're coming up almost 1 year now without them beating one. But Again, I got to think they got a good shot here against the Wildcats. But again, and he's going to have a lot of mojo, obviously, with their recent hot streak.
Yeah. All right, Tom, we're going to let you go. Thank you for making the time.
You got it. No problem.
And I haven't evicted you like they did Derek. Derek joined us for a couple minutes as well.
Yeah, this is always a great place to come. They're always very hospitable and just. So yeah,
I don't know. Derek must have been in the radio booth. I don't know if he came back up then. I know they were hustling to get off because they had a little bit of a time crunch to get to the team plane.
That's what he probably had. He's got a schedule.
But he actually wasn't on the plane. That's right. He and his wife and son are up there because it's fall break for Derek's son.
Maybe they thought Derek looked shifty and they wanted to get him out.
Yeah, that could have been it. But all right, Tom, have a great safe travels home tomorrow. You got an early flight. Nate, you and I will wrap here.
Good to see you guys.
And again, Tom, thanks again.
Hang in there.
All right, thank you. I thought Nate, this is kind of this comment here on the board or on the thing. There's a lot of doom and gloom here, and there is when you lose such a frustrating game. But I do think Purdue is making some improvement. The challenge will be in the next few weeks is, can you really have something tangible to show for it? And that would be another win. And I think that's going to be the storyline. But as we close, what do you think?
Yeah, you're right. That is the storyline. And as you mentioned, Alan, there's a basketball team that starts October 24th down in Rupp Arena that's going to command a lot of interest for Purdue fans. And so for the football program, hoping to build momentum heading into 2026. I think you're in a scenario now where these next 2 weeks are really, really critical to show some progress in the program as you head toward the back part of the schedule.
Yeah, I think that's a good point about attention and fans. And Purdue fans have shown they're going to show out for football, but you want to have that interest level. That's what makes next week and especially a big one if you can go up to Northwestern and win. Will not be easy, that's for sure. Nate, have a great rest of your now starting your Sunday. But, we appreciate that very much. Best to you. And hey, big win for Faith last night too, right? They came back and posted Jared told me about that today. Thought that was a cool thing as well. So have a great rest of your evening, what's left of it, and wind down and get to bed.
Thank you, my friend.
All right. Take care. Thank you. All right. We want to thank not only Nate Barrett, but also the good folks at Twin City Dodge, but also the folks at the Union Club Hotel here at Purdue. An autograph collection retreat blends student-run hospitality with resort luxury. Enjoy the spa, Boiler House prime dining. Boy, that golf course looks great at this time of year, especially as warm and nice as it's been here. Perfect for wellness and Purdue fans is also the Burke Boilermaker Golf Course. Leisure seekers and property, the whole property offers serene escapes, and we can book your getaway today. Visit not only the website for Boiler House Prime, but also the Purdue Union Club Hotel. Have a great rest of your evening, all of you, for staying up with us. We appreciate you very much. And we'll look forward to next week. Will be a lot earlier, but it will be after the dinner hour, probably around 7 o'clock Eastern, as we'll be talking Purdue Northwestern on Saturday Simulcast. And a reminder, you can subscribe to us at goldenblack.com. A novel thought. We'd love to have you, but if not, also make sure you can like and subscribe to us also on our YouTube channel. Write us a positive review if you're so inclined. We would appreciate that as well. Have a great rest of your Saturday evening, Sunday morning, and we will talk again soon next week after Purdue Northwestern.